hot Junkfed action. Let's bring it on. Junkfed. Woohoo. Let's get pumped. There he is.
Am I small?
Are you small?
Small screen, Todd.
No, you're a big man. All right. So for the uninitiated here, can you tell people who you are and what you do?
Who am I? I'm my name is Todd Rogers, and people call me Junkfed, but that is not my name. That is just the brand that I exist under. I make art, a lot of which has to do with vintage toys in some way or another, using it as the medium or the subject. And I'm really grumpy. I'm really just kind of a grumpy guy outside of that. So that's what I do. And by the way, I love your impersonation of people doing your voice. It's just it's dead on perfect. I mean, you sound exactly like everyone else doing you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Jenky's over there just going,
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Yeah, what are you gonna do? I don't know. I mean, if you can't make fun of yourself, then
Right.
I mean, I never would have seen myself doing this like 10 or even 20 years ago. Like, just I don't know.
Yeah.
People just screen grab my face and just do all sorts of weird stuff and post it online and make action figures of me. And I don't know.
Yeah, that's messed up, man.
I think I would have been offended by it even like 5 years ago, but now it's like, just don't care. It's like, I just laugh at it. And
didn't we all make figures, the Darth Klemmer, like more than 5 years ago?
You were involved in that, yes.
Yeah, was that offensive?
It was funny because
Okay.
Ian and Manny handed it to me like for my birthday. It was
right.
I was 41. I'm 47 now, so 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Hey, happy birthday!" And it's like, so I don't have one here to show you all, but it's a Darth Vader helmet and a guy in a gray shirt, and
Shorts,
it's called
sandals.
Darth. Yeah, it's called Darth Kellemer. And then I turned it over, and it said 1 out of 20.
You're
And
like,
I was like, what the fuck? Who's getting 2 through 19?
Yeah, really. Well,
and they were like, "Oh, we're selling those. They're $100 each." And then they sold out.
Yeah, man. You
That's
have
weird. It's weird.
You have your own brand. So
I mean, I bought a few extra. I gave one to my mom. I have one at home.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, people paid $100 for a figure of me. Go figure.
Yeah.
And there's a figure of me this show. I know this is your interview, but I still have to sell shit.
No, it's fine. I asked you.
So, Geezer made. Hey,
Oh,
everybody.
Man. That one's good. I like it.
Yeah. So, like I said, it's not the first.
Holding a figure. Wonderful.
A little gay empire figure.
Yeah. Perfect.
Yeah. Hi. How's it going?
I don't know. I think you should take it as a well, you can take it any way you want, but I was just curious because I had never heard much report back on how it went. I heard he liked it. I was like, okay, that's good. I didn't really know you. I didn't know you well at the time. I was like, huh. So yeah, it's cool. And it was fun to be a part of that one. Definitely.
Thank you, I think.
Yeah, you're welcome, I guess.
So let's talk about you.
Okay.
Because I'm boring. You make stuff that's cool.
Thanks. I try.
When did I first meet you? What were you making at the time?
All the Space Madness stuff. It was
Space
probably
Madness.
The tail end of that, or midway through that. That was a couple of years I was doing Space Madness. I think I started in 2014. Started casting, and I did my first. The first figure was the Imperial Spock Trooper.
Right. Spock, and then you did Kirk.
Yeah, the ripped shirt, and a bunch of others that I barely remember anymore. I don't keep any of it, so.
Yeah, it was mashing up. You don't have any of your work?
Barely. Hold on. Let me see if I have a who was on there. Oh yeah, I did Lieutenant Princess Uhura.
Look at the back there. Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you say? Oh, that one was for us. Yeah.
Right. That's right.
Oh, and then the Snaggletooth. That's one of my favorites. The Snagglepuss.
That is my favorite.
Where you took a blue Snaggletooth and a Snagglepuss, and
right.
Now that figure, that was I'm going to call like a watershed moment for DKE, because what it did, this was kind of still in its infancy, and people knew who the Sucklord was, and there were people collecting it, but I never had more like vintage toy collectors hit me up, except for that figure. That was
weird.
That was the one where it looked enough like a vintage figure and had, because it is the vintage figure except for the head
and the hands, yeah,
and the hands.
I mean,
and and then it just I guess I can pinpoint like certain things that have happened along this journey, and that was one where there was a certain segment of the population that just kind of converted. They're like, oh, I get this. I have to own
really
that.
Cool. That's it. I'm happy to hear that it kind of brought in a different eye, I guess. I do want to share this. This is the only Space Madness figure I have left. Like, that's not just a leg cast in my studio, but this is one that was painted by Battle Babies,
Wow.
A good friend of mine, and he said, "Give me one of those figures. I got an idea." And he took the Reading Rainbow that I made and made it goddamn fabulous. I mean, look at that thing. It's
the Reading Rainbow.
Yeah.
Oh, and Matthew says here that the Space Madness coloring book is also fabulous, and I have to agree.
Thank you.
Like that, was kind of like taking your characters and making it into kind of the coloring book from like when I was a kid.
Yeah, the old Whitman kind of.
It had that feel.
Grocery store coloring book, yeah. Well, so, that's my whole deal is I guess I don't talk about it a lot, but I feel like I work in nostalgia. I just that's my medium is nostalgia, and that's why I took all these different sci-fi ideas that I loved growing up and just jammed them into one thing. It was kind of a reaction to fandom and people saying Star Wars is better or Star Trek is better. I'm like, just fucking like what you like and leave everyone alone and put it all together, and you can play with your Star Trek toys with your Star Wars toys, and it doesn't matter. Just have a good time. So yeah, that's where that was all born out of, the coloring book, the just nostalgia.
And how did you get started in this? Like what did you see, or what did you do that made you decide like this was going to be a way that I was going to express myself creatively?
Honestly, I mean, I had done some toy customizing when I was younger, when I was a child. Just, sticking Sculpey onto action figures, making them look gross, deformed and what have you. I made a figure for my dad one year for his birthday, of him. It was basically a Ken doll that I resculpted the head. Pardon me. But what truly got me into it is I saw work of art and saw Morgan on there doing his thing. And I was like, oh shit, you can do that. Like, you can buy that stuff in the store and just make figures. And then I realized it was different than the actual, injected production figures. It's a cheaper resin and what have you, and more brittle. And you know, because my initial approach was to make action figures. Like I wanted people to be able to play with them, and I'm like, oh, you can only really make a facsimile of or a proxy. It's just a piece of art. So he totally inspired me, and I started researching. I just started looking online, came across Killer bootlegs, and those were the two guys at the time that I really, I mean, Healy popped in here and there, but those guys really spoke to me when I found their stuff. Started researching the materials. My friend got me some silicone and said, just try it out. And it was that kind that you microwave and reuse, which smelled awful. And I hated it. It made the house smell like formaldehyde or something. It was pretty terrible, but and just trial and error. And I popped out the first figure, the Spock Trooper. Posted it on Instagram to my 11 followers, and people started sharing it, and it kind of grew legs of its own, and people were asking if they could buy them. And you know, this was something I just did for the hell of it. See, maybe can I sell 10 of these to some of my friends or give them away or what have you? And people wanted them, so you know, that bad behavior was encouraged. So I continued on.
Did you already have a career in art, or had you been trained, or what was your background?
Oh, my background. I've been artistic from the get-go. I was drawing at a young age. My father was an artist, so I used to, you know, hang out with him and copy what he was doing. And we would often draw the same thing, and I'd draw my 4-year-old crappy little version, and he'd draw something great. And on through school, high school, and you know, I even took I only got an associate's in college, but it was in fine arts. But I've just always been kind of, it's come to me kind of natural. I mean, not saying that I'm a great artist or what have you, but I've always wanted to make things. I'd have a thought in my head that I needed to kind of exercise and get out, be it on a piece of paper. Back in the day when I was a kid, it was always poster board and markers. We'd go to Kmart and pick up like the big marker pack, and I'd draw something. And a lot of times I would weave in pop culture. Like I remember doing a lot of the drawings of the Peanuts. And then when the Simpsons happened, I incorporated them in. In elementary school, I'd draw the same kind of stuff. It was the Simpsons a lot, and Eddie from Iron Maiden. I would just draw constantly because I was 13. So those were the two coolest things ever. And some of my classmates started asking me to draw things for them and offering to pay me. It was nothing that I said, okay, yeah, I'll do it, but you're gonna owe me. Say, hey, we'll give you $5 for a picture of Eddie with my brother. Okay. You know, I'd do it up for him. $5 to a 13, 14-year-old is shit. It afforded me an Eddie poster that weekend, you know? So yeah, I've just always created things. But the toy art was a weird moment in my life. I feel like, you know, I started collecting again. It's something I've always been a toy and pop culture collector. And around the time that Junkfed became a thing was when I started collecting. And that just merged with my dear friend, you've met her, Sasha, getting me the silicone and saying, try this, give it a whirl, you know, because we both watched work of art together. And it's like, if that guy can do it, I can do it. So it just, that came up at a weird time where I think I was kind of bored. And I wanted to amuse myself. So I said, what would happen if Spock had to disguise himself as a stormtrooper to get through to the Death Star or what have you. And that's that, I guess. It's not really a fascinating story, but
it's still a cool story. I mean, anyone who's kind of like finding themselves creatively, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, is a cool story. But so
no,
you said you got that associate's degree in art, and then did you have other jobs in art? Were you creating other art for a living?
For a living,
before this?
Well, I was. It's a fine line. I work as a graphic designer. And I have been for the past 20 some odd years. And that happened on a fluke. All my jobs before that were just jobs, behind a counter somewhere, cooking.
Doing Eddie posters for your friends.
Right. Or cooking burgers or what have you.
Incidentally, Derek Riggs, the guy who did all the Eddie paintings, did come out with a book in the past 10 years.
I think I know that.
It's called The Art of Derek Riggs. And when I got that book, I kind of saw God. I was like, oh my God. Like, it was all in one place. And that was...
I'd like to get that. Yeah.
Next level experience for me.
I will admit something that I shouldn't. No, it doesn't. It doesn't matter. I had all these Eddie posters, but I didn't listen to Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
All right.
Me neither.
I was a poser and a half, but somewhere in time, the imagery, I was like, holy shit, maybe the music's good, but I already got the poster. So
the Eddie imagery far exceeds the quality of the music.
Yeah. And when I finally did hear Iron Maiden, I'm like, they're good, but they're not what he drew,
That was just brilliant marketing,
It could be worse. It could be Meatloaf. I mean, you look at that album cover and it's like, holy shit, this has got to be dark.
Who did
and then you listen to it.
Was that like Boris Vallejo or something? Did those Meatloaf album covers?
Might have been, yeah.
Yeah. It was,
but it's like, this is so freaking metal. He's talking about crying on the beach. It's like...
Sorry, so I interrupted you. Were a graphic designer for 20 years, and
I actually walked into a my friend was working for a holography company as their graphic designer, and by holography company I mean not like Princess Leia sending a message to the like but right, the little things that you get on your hat when you get a new hat or that are on the license or what have, to be fair. So I heard he was leaving. I had some knowledge of computers, like I could really make MS Paint work for me back then. I mean, I could pull off some shit that was pretty cool. So I walked in and I said, hey, I hear so-and-so's leaving. I know computers and I do art. Would you like to hire me? And this guy, to his credit, hired me. I worked there for 11 years. And by the time I was done, sadly, he had to lay me off because who the fuck buys holograms? But at the end of my time there, I really knew my way around the computer and graphic design. So I've been doing that since. Yeah. So that's basically my creating.
But that's usually, kind of work for hire work you do for other people, correct? I mean, you're not really doing graphic design for yourself.
Typically not, no. Unless it comes to the toy making now. Right. Now I do.
So where the toys were kind of your first venture into, art for art's sake that you were creating with your name on it?
No, I used to paint quite a bit, some 20 years ago. I was apprenticing at a tattoo studio, and a lot of the guys there started buying up my paintings. And again, it was like, oh, people want what I'm doing. So I would continue doing, like at the time, it was a lot of religious icons and kind of distortion of iconography. And those guys just bought it up. And it seemed like I could just really lean into what I wanted to paint and people wanted to buy it at the time.
Mhm.
And then I got a call from one guy who wanted me to do a painting for him. And this guy was a fitness nut, and he said, like, I want a picture of a guy doing a jump on a bike and have this like inspirational quote on it. And I'm like, dude, you kind of want a poster from the mall, I think. It's not really, it's not really.
Did you say that to him?
I did. I said, have you seen what I do? You know, because I didn't get that
right
at the time, that you know, you can make, if you're willing to bite your lip a bit and draw whatever this schmo is asking you to draw, you could probably make a dime here and there. But I basically told this guy to get lost, because I was doing the art. You know, I was doing these things that I thought was important art, and that kind of discouraged me. So I stopped painting for a bit, and then just buried myself into the working of things. You know, working for a hologram place or a newspaper or all the jobs that came after that. And I still work a day job. I'm an illustrator designer for hire these days. It's all freelance, but you know, got to keep the lights on.
Sure. But so do you ever find the creative, because you're doing a creative job, do you ever find that when it comes to doing your own work for your, you know, with your own name on it, that is for you personally, that some of those creative juices have evaporated by the time you get to it?
A little bit, but lately I found myself, I'll do a 8 to 9 hour day, working, you know, in the AM to the afternoon, and then I shut down my computer and I go into the place where I make toys, and I do that for another 6 or so hours. So I think I'm drawing from different wells for the different kind of work.
That's pretty impressive. That's not the story that I hear from the majority of artists.
Common. It's not common, but I very much over the years have been able to kind of separate out the commercial work that I do and just leave it in its own space.
But I mean, when you're doing the commercial work, you're kind of doing work for people like that guy that you told to get lost with the motorcycle.
Right. Exactly. I mean, this was years later I came to that, and I said, well, this is better than cooking burgers or mopping floors. I like creating, so if some schmo wants a picture with a motorcycle and an inspirational quote, sure, I'll do it. If it's something that does not offend my sensibilities, sure.
I do, for the record, I do feel like that guy with the motorcycle and inspirational quote myself quite often, because I will approach artists to be a part of something. Like when I asked Skinner to be part of the Space Rat series, and he's like, "What? You want me to draw a monkey?" You know, it's like, and it was like, never mind, dude. You know, or I'm trying to draw someone into the fold who has never done an action figure before. You know, and it you know, it works with people like, you know, Jim Mafood and Frank Kozik, Ron English, but sometimes I'm approaching someone who has never thought of their work in that way, and I'm always afraid of getting that response. Like, some people get it right away, right? Some people, and especially if they're dudes, you know, who had toys as a kid, like the idea of expressing themselves that way is cool. I hit up some female artists and they're like, that's whack. Like, I don't, you know, like, I don't want to be associated with that shit at all. I mean, I had problems getting women to participate in the Vader Project.
Really?
I mean, there are female artists, but you know.
Yeah. Well, now that you mention it, I'm thinking of that Walrus Mania show we did last year, and I had a heck of a time. I wanted a good. My intention was to have 50-50, if possible, female to male ratio of artists. Sure. And that was hard to pull off. So yeah, it's an interesting.
It's tough.
Yeah. But we did get some really lovely pieces from some talented females. So
that was a great show, by the way.
Thank you. That was Part of me feels like that show caused COVID somehow, because it was like, flew out to Chicago, we did this thing,
Uh-huh.
it was so fun, and like a week later you couldn't leave your fucking house. I'm like, did I do that? My obsession with Walrus Man caused COVID.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone.
Let's talk about Walrus Man for a second. I've lately, and I bought a lot of stuff from that show. Like,
So sorry, but
and thank you
sorry.
for giving me the opportunity. It was so much fun. And there's something about those 4 Cantina aliens,
Yeah,
from the Kenner line that that really speak to me. And you talk about being, working in nostalgia. Like, I am nostalgic for those characters, not how they appeared in the movie, but how they appeared in the toy. So
Yeah.
Ian is handing this to me here.
Oh wow, it's right there.
Look at that.
I miss that. That was neat. That took a lot of.
You can come visit at any time.
Yeah. Right on, man.
Once COVID's over, and you just made this whole cantina with like 2, 4, 6, 8, like everyone as Walrus Man.
Yeah. Well,
look at that. Unbelievable. And the Chewy as Walrus Man is like.
Yeah. It became a bit of a trick of how do I envision. Well, Ben needs an orange cape, I guess. So, it's like, how do I work through all of these? So I get an idea and then it's like a puzzle. How do I fit this all together? I'm glad you have that, man.
I'm glad you made it, because it, and then the other pieces that I've really enjoyed from you, Ian, if you want to grab those, it's like you've been painting Walrus Man like out of a starting lineup figure and out of
you do have the.
But then you painted a walrus.
Yeah.
And then you as Walrus Man, and then that was like.
To me, it's like right there. It's like
those two are good.
I don't know. I appreciate that people are taken by that or surprised, but
yeah, I mean, this is not a criticism. It's like so stupid.
It is,
but
I agree.
But it is amazing.
Thank you, man.
I mean, it's like, and it just kind of highlights the stupidity of me like wanting this too. It's like it's so brilliant yet simple that how do you I don't know. So then
the point of that Walrus Mania, and it was me just painting a bunch of shit to look like Walrus Man for a while, because I think of that figure of the 4 Cantina aliens really standing out the absolute most, because those colors are just, they cannot be ignored or really forgotten. There's vibrating colors up against each other, the opposites of the spectrum. So to me, it was just like, oh, it's, of course, there's a play on the words Walrus Man. Somebody at Kenner was like, this guy kind of looks like a walrus or whatever, or somebody just threw out that name clearly. Mm-hmm. And they were like, okay, that's good enough, Walrus Man. And let's throw flippers on him. They threw flippers on him. And so I'll be walking through Michael's or something, and I'll pick up a walrus toy and go, Walrus Man, instantly. It's just, that's what it is in my head. And then I see the color schemes, and it's about just putting colors near each other.
So the question is, how are you going to make me a Greedo and a Snaggletooth?
Yeah, they don't have animal names, so. But I'll figure something out. I mean, I did make you one of these, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
This is actually, I'm going to air this out on Zoom. Somebody commissioned this from me last week and then ghosted me. I'm like, hey, buddy, it's done. And he just poof. So I'll for grabs.
Yeah, so because I have those are the Thundercats villains, right?
Right. Yeah.
And you've done a Walrus Man and a Greedo version.
hmm
So I guess I'm waiting
Yeah.
on a Snaggletooth and Hammerhead in that series too.
Yeah, really though. I mean, that's why I did the Slippery Shark Hammerhead, which is Mighty Morphin's Power Rangers
Do I
figure.
have that one?
I think you do.
I think I do. Okay. But
Anyway,
right.
it's just, and that was me just boiling that nostalgic thing in my head down to literally the colors of Walrus Man. You could paint these on a block of wood in a right succession, look at it and go, this is Walrus Man. For instance, I mean, the fact that who made that one?
An Australian artist named Addy.
It's beautiful, but the fact that they went through and made a circle for the face and gave it arms, like I would have thought, just take a 2x4 and paint that fucker like Walrus Man.
Sure. I mean, but that's kind of his style. He's got this reductive kind of.
Right. That's a look, but
that is his look.
Sure.
He's Australian, so he refers to it as timber.
Timber. Huh.
Timber. It's not wood. Timber.
Gotcha.
So, what's next? Like, what is the career of Junkfed looking like? Where does it go from here?
I don't know. I have something in the works. I'm feeling what I have to do is always make things that make me happy, or things that feel good. And it comes back to kind of like that guy asking me to draw somebody jumping on a bike. In my toy, this is my art. This is where I do what I want. And if I don't want to do it, I'm just not going to engage. This is not the commercial daytime art. So that's why I say I think I do draw from different wells. But over the past year, I've been feeling meaner. And I think a lot of that is starting to reflect in what I'm drawing. Some of the things I've been putting together.
You're becoming a crotchety old man.
Not that so much. It's just I'm angry. Well, yeah. I mean, I am. I already am.
Yeah. You're gonna go Michael Douglas on us?
No.
Someone posted on Instagram is like, I start to understand like the Michael Douglas character from Falling Down more like every day.
Yeah. It's hard to be old and white.
Yeah, not really.
No. Just for anyone watching who does not know me, I was being facetious.
Thank you for clarifying. But I mean, I guess you're very fortunate that the work that you create for yourself, that you take pleasure in creating and conceiving, also resonates with other people.
I am fortunate. I know that, and it delights me.
There are plenty of people who are compelled to create certain types of art that like no one gives a shit about, and it's really devastatingly painful.
No, there's a lot of people feel nostalgic, so I think that's what speaks to them in my stuff. And I think the fact that I approach it with a sense of playfulness and I don't take myself too seriously. I think that comes through in the pieces. People always seem to light up when they like come across some of the space madness stuff or some of the things that I've painted to look like another thing, But I do, the things that are coming out of me now are a product of this past year, which has been ugly as hell.
Sure.
And not to say that everything's going to be, why are you so angry, Todd? That's Sasha is asking. It's not to say that, everything's going to be dark and dismal, but I think there's going to be less of a playful tongue-in-cheek. I don't know. We'll see. I may start making this stuff, hate it, and never want to show anybody.
Sure.
But I have some stuff that I'm working on that still involves toys, but it's a lot more somber. I'll just say that much.
So what do you think of nostalgia being? I know there's some, not in this world, everyone in our community like loves nostalgia. This is just a
Right.
nostalgia, getting high on nostalgia machine. Everyone's just like,
Yeah, totally.
but I don't think the rest of the art world is like that. I think
No,
a lot of them look down on pop culture references and
yeah,
what
that's
it,
interesting. But it is the American culture at this point. Like, when they think about in the future, anthropologists looking back at America versus Brazil, or what do we have culturally? We have bits of everyone else's culture, the melting pot. But I think for a country, for a people, if we're going to call ourselves American, pop culture is the culture. So that's what a lot of people choose to deal in and work with. But yeah, a lot of people do look down on nostalgia, and I think there's some merit to that. Nostalgia is a lot of looking in and looking back, and folks don't like that. And it's sometimes very unhealthy. But I don't know. I think for me, nostalgia is just a way to make myself feel better. I can walk into
feel better about what? Like
the state of the world now, the way things are now. It's a nice little escape into when you or we personally didn't have to worry about 9 to 5 and bills and politics and racism and just all the heavy shit out there. So it's our respite. It's our safe place to think about Greedo or to read a comic book or to have a collection, or I think it's a good way to, hey, it's a better drug than some. I mean, shit, there are some good drugs out there, I've been told. But
right. But so
if I'm gonna indulge in something, I think I find it relatively harmless, so I do.
Right. So if it, I mean, I find it fascinating that when you couch it in terms of a drug, so it's something that you use to make you feel better. So it's something you experienced, had fond memories of as a kid, and because life has gotten real or more difficult or whatever, however you want to describe it, I'm sitting in a room just filled with nostalgia, like
so like likewise.
It's like my happy place. And so brings me back to a time. I wonder if that is reflective of like the kind of childhood that you had. I wonder if
might be
if people who perceived that their childhood was shitty, that they have less nostalgia, unless those things that they were into were a respite at the time from whatever else was going on.
Right. And this is not to say that I had a great childhood and all the nostalgia is good. Some of it hurts. I mean, to dig it up, and like I recently, within the past 4 or 5 years, bought a dinosaur toy, an old Hold on. I bought this guy because he was one that I had when I was a child, and this object, this plastic object that some man pulled out of a mold in the 70s, is like a totem to me. I can access that memory and spend time just kind of, it's like time travel,
Sure.
And with that, like I said, it's not all good. I have some bittersweet memories connected to
Sure.
that thing conjures. So
what does it say when you chop them up and you start making dioramas inside of a dinosaur?
You know what it says. I have no idea, man. I mean, that was inspired by the dinoramas are very much inspired by my childhood, and my dad would just always buy me toy dinosaurs because he loved them growing up, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That was his thing, and he got me that Imperial one, and we took pictures in the backyard, and he did this forced perspective thing, where it looked like I was fighting the dinosaur. You know, I'm in the distance and the dinosaur is in front of the camera. So those dinoramas were very much just kind of like inspired by him and a friend of mine who's also a huge dinosaur fan. And since I found that I just really enjoy the hell out of doing those, so I keep making them. I keep making them. I'm up to like 20 something at this point.
Wow. Are you taking photos of all of them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's good. Sasha's tripping out.
Yeah, she. What's she talking about? I can't.
This self-analysis of.
Oh yeah. Well, she's being the psychiatrist on us. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, it's a nostalgia machine. I guess it's interesting, the nostalgia that you create for yourself, and then the nostalgia machine that like Hollywood and everyone else is trying to use in order to make money.
Right. They're kind of tapping the same vein. I mean, they're like, well, this is gonna sell. But I wonder what the intention is. I mean, you got people like Jon Favreau doing the Mandalorian, and I think the nostalgia that he's working in comes from his heart. Mm-hmm. But perhaps the studio itself, it comes from the wallet. You know, they know they can make a dime off of this. So, and that said, I make a couple of bucks off of the nostalgia that I peddle.
But I'm so conflicted about it because when The Mandalorian's on, I watch it every week.
Yeah.
And I enjoy watching it, but then I hate it.
Yeah, because it's fucking everywhere.
Dude, but it's all of the self-referential crap that's in there, all of those little Easter eggs that they're trying to give us. I just end up resenting because what it represents to me is how like fantasy film is kind of dead.
Yeah.
And everything is sort of now that being said, I've loved the Marvel movies. I would say I looked forward more to the Marvel movies, and having that technology to be able to tell those stories the way they were meant to be told could only be done right now. But I looked forward more to those movies than the Star Wars movies. I was excited to see Avengers, and when those other movies came out,
I think it's because in our, I mean, the way I've always thought of Star Wars is it's not, it's limited. It was like it came and it went, but then it came back again, and it's like, well, you're gonna have Star Wars forever. Whereas the Marvel universe was always just, you could keep going with it, and they are keeping going,
Right.
It's almost like books of a religion at this point.
It was serialized to begin with. It was meant to continue to happen forever, right?
Exactly. So that format, it just different technology.
But Star Wars and comic books and the Marvel comics and the Dark Horse comic books and the novels just got stupid.
I'm personally feeling over Star Wars. There's just too much Star Wars. I don't want to leave the house, man, because I know I'm going to see more Star Wars. But
I certainly have a love-hate relationship with Star Wars.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah, but it is the nostalgia for the figures that has not gone away.
No, Same with me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's and I see that, and I think that's, what I'm just sitting wallowing in for everyone else's enjoyment.
Wallowing in.
Wallowing in nostalgia.
Yeah. I mean, when you enter that room, does it give you a good feeling?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's always like
It's
mired with
associated.
how much work has to be done. But
Right,
yes, the
right.
things on the walls make me happy. But
Yeah.
the other mess, and this job and that project, and
Sure.
this to
Yeah.
do,
No,
and
it's
this,
work. Right.
it's like,
Right. But I mean, or like say your person, just looking at your personal collection and that it's like I said, there are far worse drugs. So
true. I mean, my mom said to me, she said, when I was in my late teens, she said, you turn all of your hobbies into businesses. So what do you do for fun?
that's a good
And
that's a good question.
and I couldn't answer that question at the time. I probably still can't, but I don't know.
Well, if
I
you
got
do something you love, you never work a day in your life.
right.
Supposedly.
Yeah, it just maybe. But there's all the other, that's true. But even if you're a painter and you love painting,
Yeah.
you still have to pay your taxes, and you still have
Yeah.
to like
No, it still
procure
becomes,
supplies, and there's still a job to do.
yeah, it becomes a obligatory thing that feels heavier and less joyless than it did at the joyful as it did at the start. So
Right.
but
Well, I guess if you can always just keep enjoying the part that you enjoy and keep it in perspective, then I guess
sure.
happy life.
So that's what I'm trying to do, is just make things, enjoy what I'm making. If someone else enjoys it too, that's awesome. And I absolutely adore like the people who buy from me and or just admire, not even buy from me, just people who admire my stuff.
Except for that one asshole that you made the toy for that ghosted you.
Yeah,
that
whatever,
guy.
man. Whatever.
Damn it.
Yeah, he took some time out of my life, but I will probably
I think you're going to
that.
sell it, no problem.
Yeah, it's not a big deal. But yeah, I think the point is I just, this stuff, what I make is really kind of a self-soothing for all the bottled up rage and anxiety that I have. So
Wow.
and it does the trick most of the time.
Do you ever get angry?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You're like really angry?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't want to see that, but it's hard to imagine you being angry.
Really? Oh
yeah.
Boy. No, I think
because every time I talk to you, every time I see you, you're just smiling and happy all the time.
I try to be personable, but
there's
I'm
a raging monster inside.
Yeah, I'm a coiled cobra of rage. Speaking of rage, I see Dollar Slice Bootlegs is
take him to a hate breed show and put him on the dance floor. Yeah, what? Not today.
Exactly. Yeah, I think Dollar Slice knows a little bit about some of my rage. not in that way. No, we get along fine. No.
Are we starting beef now?
No, I love that guy, man. I was depressed once, and he recorded a video of himself. I'm sharing this with everyone, of himself singing "If You Want to Sing Out" by Cat Stevens. Picture that. It's in my feed, man. And I was just like,
wow.
Aw,
that's magic.
How lovely is that?
All right, dude.
Hard.
Man, I really appreciate the time. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for all you do,
man. And thank you.
Appreciate you taking the time.
All right, guys. Have fun.
Take care, man.
Take care.
That was another wonderful interview.